Welcome back, everyone. Episode 14 of the Brad Burns Bridges podcast.
I'm Brad.
And I'm Bridges. Been a little bit of a down week, I would say. No college football last weekend, other than Army Navy, which shout out the troops. Always a game to look forward to. But that was pretty much it. So we're getting into bowl season. We've got a couple things to talk about today. The schedule release just happened in the SEC. Exciting times. Just when you think we're done talking Arkansas Razorback football, it brings us back, right, Brad?
We're back, baby.
We are back. I'm going to talk about the new quarterback that the Arkansas Razorbacks added through the portal. Get into a little what Brad expects to see from the Hawkeyes in their bowl game. Preview the CFP. Maybe talk a little bit of NFL action today, and then wrap it up with the Arkansas Razorback basketball team. But without further ado, Brad, the SEC schedules were released yesterday, and man, oh man, Texas and Oklahoma entered the chat. But we'll dive into them later on in the podcast. Why don't we get right into it with Arkansas's 2024 football schedule? Man, there looks like some winnable games here. That's the first thing I see. What's your kind of first reactions when you saw what was released?
I mean, as an Arkansas sports fan, there's always winnable games. But when I see this schedule, I'm hoping for some improvement next year because if there's not, I think it's going to be a long year. Um, it's I get it's winnable, but it's a gauntlet nonetheless. I mean, the SEC itself is always going to be a gauntlet, but it's with the divisions going away, it's going to be fun having some new matchups. We got Tennessee at home, which is going to be awesome. I'm really excited for. Uh, our home is insane. You got Texas, Tennessee, LSU, and Ole Miss. So I'm going to try to make it up for as many of those games as possible. We got the last AT&T Stadium game with A&M early in the year. Um, that'll be exciting. And then, a pretty good non-conference with Oklahoma State. I had no idea that was even on the on the schedule this year.
Yeah,
Mike Gundy's teams are always tough. Another solid year this year. So our team has got to cut it out for them, and so we'll see what happens. But nonetheless, we'll have some really good matchups for Arkansas.
yeah, absolutely. And it's just kind of exciting, right, Brad? We just came off a really tough, year when things are looking down. Then you have the Petrino news that brings you back. A quarterback just committed to the Hogs through the transfer portal. So there's little things that are reaching out and grabbing you, right? And then the schedule release. So a lot of things to be excited about if you're a Razorback sports fan like Brad and I. But why don't we kind of work our way down the schedule, Brad, and kind of give our little predictions? We're not going to really give previews to every single game. We'll obviously talk about the big ones, but we'll kind of go through and little rough uh, estimate on the record for next year. So starting off, opening the season, we have Arkansas Pine Bluff. So an in-state matchup here. It's actually going to be in Little Rock during Labor Day weekend. So what you think about that one? I think the Hogs start 1-0 here and get the season rolling. What you think, Brad?
Yep, I agree. Interesting that the game's in Little Rock. I know last year was kind of a debacle, so hopefully, it's a better event this year. But fun nonetheless. Yeah, definitely start off with a W there.
Yep. So we're both 1-0. Here's a game that I was last year. Early in the year, Oklahoma State ended up having a great run towards the end of the season, but early was looking shaky. So this game looks like a tough game early on, and it's an away game. I think this one can go either way. For the sake of trying to guess all of these right, I think the Hogs drop one at Oklahoma State. Second game of the year, kind of get punched in the mouth, and you got to go correct some things. So I'm going to say 1-1. Keep it real. What do you think, Brad?
Yeah, not a bad take. It's definitely going to be a tough matchup. I just think we come into next year hungry, motivated. I mean, these players need to, show off for their head coach. I mean, it's kind of now or never. And Oklahoma State, like we said, is coming off a pretty good year. Didn't have the most talented roster. A lot would say they overperformed this year, and so they're going to be coming into next year kind of high and mighty. I think we go into Stillwater and steal one. Honestly, it's going to be a motivated group, and I'm excited to see him play. But yeah, I think that's kind of the point in the season where we're kind of like, okay, here we go,
Yeah.
and give us the good momentum for the rest of the 24 year.
Yeah, I like it. I'm also basing my predictions on what we've kind of lost in the portal so far. So we haven't seen what we're replacing these, pieces with. So take these picks from me with a grain of salt. I'm also just looking for an improvement. So with that being said, I'm 1-1. You're 2-0 here. We have UAB at home. I think we handle them easy. That bumps me to 2-1. Are you on the same page there, Brad? So
Yep.
you're 3-0 to start, and then we go and enter SEC play, right? And we go on the road to Auburn. I'll let you kind of take this one first. What do you expect to see here?
Yeah, I'm pretty high on Auburn. I really like Hugh Freeze. Year two is always, a big kind of jumping block for college football head coaches. Year one's always tough, getting your guys in the building. Year two is where you see kind of that huge improvement, big steps forward as a program. And Auburn is, a top 10 program, in my opinion, in college football. And so I think they're going to be tough, especially on the road. Like I said, I'm predicting a huge victory in Stillwater. So I think we drop this one um, in Auburn, Alabama, but still 3-1 on the year.
Yeah, I think this game is a pretty difficult one to talk about because you saw Auburn look great at times, almost beat Bama, and where they were like 13-point underdogs. You feel like, man, Auburn has looked really good and they have looked really bad. But I'm with you. I think Auburn's a pretty great um, college program. I think Hugh Freeze in year two bounces back. I'm going to have the Hogs at 2-2, taking a loss here. And then you go into Arlington, right? Neutral site game, last one of these. These games are typically pretty close when the Hogs play. Last year being an outlier, but I am going to take the Hogs to beat A&M under Mike Elko in his first year. I think they're losing a lot of pieces, man, and I think you're right with a new coach coming into a new program. It takes a little bit of time to get their guys in place. They've got a lot of people in the transfer portal. Yet this is all early. This is going to change. We'll definitely talk about this again, but I'm going to have the Hogs 3-2 beating Texas A&M in Arlington.
Yep, I agree. Agree with a lot of your points. Year one for Mike Elko, it's going to be tough. Losing a lot to the portal right now. Kind of as you've highlighted, we don't know what's going to happen the rest of the year up until then, but he's got a tall hill to climb before next season, building his roster. Losing a lot, it's kind of sad to see a program fall so far from that number one overall recruiting class they had just a couple years ago. And most of the guys we're talking about were a part of that class leaving. So yeah, he's got a lot of pieces to fill. But he's a guy kind of off topic. I think he's a good hire for their program. He knows it well, knows the program, knows the recruiting base. So they'll be back. But I think the Hogs take this one as well. And
So you're
at this
four
point,
and you're
four
four and
four and
one.
one on the year.
Heck yeah, let's go, Brad. Hey, this is a Bobby Petrino revenge game too. Just coming in, there's going to be a lot of that
Good, good
motivation.
take. Yeah, good
So I
point.
I think I think that that is a game circled on the calendar next year for the Razorbacks offensive coordinator. Excited to see. I'll let you take this one, man. Tennessee. This has been a program. They definitely did not live up to expectations last year. Don't know much other than they have a freaking stud at quarterback coming in. Five-star Nico. I don't remember his last name, but I'm sure he's going to be taking the starting role next year for them. What do you think happens in this game at home against Tennessee?
Yeah, Tennessee had a weird year, coming off a really good 2022 campaign last year under Josh Heupel. Yeah, I mean it's kind of similar to kind of what we've seen from Tennessee. Past 10, 15 years. Honestly, start hot with Butch Jones, then they kind of just trail off and never really hear about him anymore. I think this Tennessee program is different. I really like Heupel, big offensive guy, obviously a really good recruiter with the prospects he's got coming in with the quarterbacks and other skill positions. Really highly sought after guys. I don't know. Yeah, I think Tennessee's going to be tough. they had a tough year this year, but they were still, I think they're still top 25 team in the CFP. Still really quality opponent. I think they come into Fayetteville next year and take care of business.
All right, I
I'm
disagree.
expecting a lot from there.
Yeah, I think we get a little bit of momentum rolling. We figured it out. We're clicking on all cylinders here. We rolling home, which home playing at home was a tough little deal last year for the Razorbacks. We did not have our good showings at home. We actually had our good showings on the road, which is crazy in the toughest environments. But I think that we get
Right.
that corrected. I think that we beat Tennessee and head into our bye week. So I think I've got the Hogs sitting at 4-2, correct?
Yep.
We both
Same here.
yeah. Sweet. Well, we go into bye and then we come back and we play the Tigers at home. See, this is where I think it gets really tough. The road for us off a bye week. We're living high. If you look at how great LSU's offense was, they have the leading receiver in the nation and the Heisman Trophy winner in Jaden Daniels. Man, if they could have just figured out that defense, that was their thorn in their side. I do not think Brian Kelly lets that get away from them again this year. I think their offense takes a hit, but I think their defense improves greatly. I think we drop that game at home, and I'm saying 4-3 at this point.
Yeah, I agree. LSU's always tough. They, yeah, they had a weird year this year. I mean, super stellar on one side of the ball, national championship quality, but the defense just let them down all year. I always think, what could have been for their program if Marcus Freeman hadn't got the Notre Dame job
Yeah,
and he had followed Brian Kelly to Baton Rouge and been his defensive coordinator. I mean, there's no way he would have let that happen, that kind of performance on that side of the ball. So, what could have been LSU fans, but I agree. They're always tough. It'll be fun to have them in Fayetteville next year, and honestly, gives us a little bit of a shot. 2 years ago, when last time they were in Fayetteville, we kept it close.
with a
Probably when we
backup
shouldn't have,
quarterback, I believe. Yeah,
exactly when we probably shouldn't have. So rivalry game, anything can happen, but for the sake of you know choosing right now, I'll go LSU.
yep, 4-3. I'm gonna Cody Kennedy, our old offensive line coach, just took a job at Mississippi State. We're rolling into Starkville here. I think that is no problem here. I think that they have a lot of stuff. I think we had some pieces, like that could have rostered a good team. Our offensive line really hurt us last year, but I think that we have more returning pieces, and we're going to end up bringing some people through the portal to fix that. I think we go into Mississippi State, get a dub, 5-3 before we head into Ole Miss. What do you think here, Brad?
I agree. Yeah, like you said, like a lot of the pieces coming back. Quarterback will be interesting. That's something to look at, and at this point in the season, over halfway, it'll be kind of understood at that point. And so if we have really good quarterback play at that point, I really like the way our team kind of is building right now. Um, if we can keep the momentum on the defensive side, Cody Kennedy kind of do his thing on the offensive line, and let our playmakers make plays. I think Mississippi State shouldn't be a problem.
Sitting 5-3. Then we have Ole Miss at home. Give me the Hogs. I think the Hogs pick up this rivalry game. This one's one that's pretty close to all the time. Lane Kiffin has not performed well in Fayetteville since he's taken the gig there. I think that stays the same. The Hogs pick up. They go 6-3, become bowl eligible by beating Ole Miss at home. What you got, Brad?
This one's tough. I really like for how kind of off his rocker he is. Lane Kiffin as a coach, I think he's done a lot of good things at Ole Miss. I mean, they're a good program, but they're not kind of what he's kind of made them, a 10-win team year in and year out, which is very impressive. Um, that defense is just kind of is weak, man. They got our guy.
Who, Paul?
Is it Pooh Paul? That's a start. Rebuilding that side of the ball. Um, yeah, I like the Rebels here. Like you said, like you mentioned, they came into Fayetteville 2 years ago and just laid an egg.
An egg.
I
Yep.
don't think I don't think they do that again. Um, so yeah, I'll go Ole Miss. So sitting at 5-3 or 5-4.
Yep. So I got us 6-3. You got us 5-4. We head into the bye week and then we play Texas. But real quick about this Ole Miss thing, I think it's interesting you bring this up. laying an egg he has done in Fayetteville in the past years. Ole Miss probably has one of the most favorable schedules in this whole SEC release that I've been seeing on Twitter. That it could be Ole Miss's year to really, grab one of those higher seeds and like etch into the college football playoff in this 12-team roster. So this is a really big game that I have circled here,
Right.
not only for Ole Miss but for Arkansas as well. I think that they're going to be rolling, and who knows? Anything can happen in college football, which is great.
Yeah, you bring up a good point on the playoff. I mean, this 24 years is going to be first year with the 12-team playoff. If we would have had it this year, they were the last team in, and so that's kind of the caliber I see his Lane Kiffin squad is 8 to 15 kind of ish.
Yeah,
So always playing for one of those last spots, but every game matters because you can't you can dream, but you can't expect to beat the Bamas and the Georgias and even the LSU's year in and year out. So these games, like you mentioned, against Arkansas on the road, are super critical for their success.
yeah, absolutely. And then we head into the game that I have circled on my calendar already. We play Texas at home November 16th. This is one of the best sites that I've seen. I would love to play them every year. But this is a good squad, man. This isn't the team we played a couple years ago. They're going to be coming fresh off a college football playoff berth, which we'll talk about later in this podcast. I really find it tough that the Hogs are going to win this game. So I hate to say it. We'll see if this changes before the season starts because I'm sure we'll do this again. But as of right now, I have Texas winning this game, coming into Razorback Stadium and taking us out.
Yeah, I would love to do one of these, but Texas is good, man. I mean, you mentioned the game 2 years ago, and we thought we were playing a good Texas team. I think they were ranked like 16 coming in,
Yeah.
and they finished the year like 5-7. It wasn't a good team. Sark's first year, like nothing crazy or anything.
Hudson Card is
Um,
their quarterback, and I believe he is at Purdue now. So
yeah,
just to put that into perspective for our listeners, a lot has changed
exactly. Their backup next year could tear it up 10 times better than Hudson Card.
for sure.
Um, but yeah, he's done a really good job at Texas. I mean, about time for someone to step into that program and actually do something, right? I mean,
Yeah,
talk about the amount of resources and just presence in the college football landscape. Texas should always be solid, and it's kind of nice to see them the way they are at this point because you're right. It is a fun game no matter what
yeah,
against them. So definitely going to be there for that one.
absolutely.
Um, but yeah, I think we dropped that at home.
So I have a 6-4. You got us
5-5,
5-5. Sweet. Well, this is
almost
great.
bowl eligible.
Yeah. I have us beating Louisiana Tech at home. I don't think that they're going to be a terrible team, but I think the Hogs are too much for them. We improved to 7-4. Brad, what do you think about this Louisiana Tech team before we get into the?
Yeah, you're right. They're never terrible. They've always had good players come out from that school, but yeah, I think we get the dub. And then yeah, at that point, I'm predicting us bowl eligible,
Yep.
which would be
So
exciting.
you're sitting 6-5. Interesting here because I think there's a huge difference in 7-5 and 6-6. I think that 7-5 says, yeah, I'm bowl eligible, and I think 6-6, you're kind of sitting there looking at the season. You're like, man, we barely made it. But
Yeah,
7 wins, you're in the clear. We're going to Missouri. Obviously, they're great this year. It's very hard for a program like, you know, Missouri, Arkansas, I feel like Kentucky even to be consistently 9, 10 win teams. So it would be crazy to see them have that sort of success next year. Um, I am going to say we dropped this game 7-5. Historically we're not very good against Missouri. I think we are the better team a lot of instances, and we just can't get the job done. But that is no excuse. I think the struggles kind of with Missouri continue, and we finished the season 7-5, bowl eligible, huge improvement from this past year.
Yeah, good take. I agree. I'm a little more high on Missouri than you are. I think they got a lot coming back. Luther Burden, he's just a sophomore. He's going to be back. They'll have an interesting QB battle. They got some good guys coming up the ranks, so they'll be solid there. And Eli Drinkowitz has done a lot better job than I thought
Yeah.
coming in.
Say
He's
what
a
you want. That man
he's
can.
a hell of a
Oh,
recruiter, and
yeah.
the transfer portal honestly like works for him and his style. Um, so yeah, this kind of era of college football, he's thriving, and it's it's impressive to see what's going on in Columbia.
Heck
So
yeah.
yeah, I think we drop it and finish the year 6-6.
Sweet. Both of us have the Hogs Bowl eligible, man. Even though none of this, really matters, we're gonna do this again and kind of etch it in stone whenever the season's about to open up. But it's just fun to talk about, man. It's exciting, especially when you have a tough
Oh
year.
yeah,
But more Arkansas Razorback football news, man. The Hogs go out and they get their quarterback, Taylen Greene. Man, the stats are a little iffy because you see him start early in the year, get benched, and then he comes back and he plays a lot better to end the year and wins, player of their conference title game when they took on UNLV and former Hogs defensive coordinator Barry Odom. What are you really seeing with this? What are your expectations going forward with the guy named like Taylen Greene?
yeah. Excited to get one of the more premier quarterbacks out of the portal. Um, Saw a lot of stuff on him, even before Arkansas was even kind of in the question. So pretty excited once I heard the news. The timing was a little odd without a real hard announcement from KJ. I thought that was a little strange.
Yeah,
Um,
and still
but
to this minute, there is no word on it other than speculation and that he's gone. So
right. And so there must be something we don't know. Um, but excitement nonetheless. Like you said, kind of an up and down year, but it ended strong. A lot of potential to be really explosive and just a real good playmaker for the team. Yeah, just excited at this point, but still just kind of hard to understand kind of the timing and also kind of what's going on with KJ. That seems to be the bigger question mark at this point.
yeah. Hey, dude, I got some really. I was listening to John Neighbors, who does this Locked On Razorbacks podcast, the other day, and he was saying, we have three quarterbacks that are on our roster right now, and KJ Jefferson, Jacoby Criswell, and now Taylen Greene. And you sit here and you look, all three were recruited by different offensive coordinators at the time. You got KJ with Kendall Briles. You have Jacoby Criswell, Dan Enos, and then you've got Taylen Greene, which is your current offensive coordinator, Bobby Petrino. All three of them have reasons to believe that they are the starting quarterback, right? KJ's like, hey, if I come back, there's no way I'm not going to be the starting quarterback. Like I've got all these records. I've been here. I've paid my dues. And then you have Jacoby Criswell, who leaves North Carolina, comes in under Danny Nose with the, thought like, hey, this program's mine whenever KJ's gone. And then you have Taylen Greene, who is a sought after quarterback that you get through the portal, right? And there's no way he's coming here to be the backup. You know what I'm saying? Like, I definitely think that KJ is going to enter the portal. I wish him the best wherever he goes, and I would love to have him back, right? Like, no shade with KJ. But if you look at your current offensive coordinator and he went out and got his guy, right? It just is hard to believe that he would go out and get his guy and he wouldn't be starting for the Razorbacks, right? So there's a lot of different things going on here. It's going to be crazy to see how it unfolds. A lot of people, are coming out saying that it's already, a done deal, that KJ's gone. That sucks. But I mean, there's a lot of factors here. But I am very happy with Taylen Greene. I think he's a prototypical size for Bobby Petrino. Like when Ryan Mallett was here, who's obviously a Hog legend. Um, bigger bodied guy, 6'6". They both were just towering people, could see over the offensive line, and they've got incredible arm strength. So I think that that's the guy that Bobby wanted to run his offense, and he obviously went out and got him because it happened pretty early. Um, you got any more thoughts on this?
No, other than I probably at this point agree. KJ's probably gone, and it's going to be odd seeing him in another jersey, but I'm a little excited about it for some
Yeah,
reason, just for him, just to get a fresh opportunity. I mean, I think he's really good, and it was kind of sad to see kind of what
this year.
happened on the field this year. And so, yeah, if he's gone, all the best to him, and I hope he ends up somewhere to where he can actually kind of, you know, do his thing, and it would be cool to see.
For sure. I got all the respect in the world for KJ. Did a lot of things for the Razorback, but you're right, man. Change is exciting. We've been used to having great quarterback play with KJ. It's been frustrating at times, obviously, with the success we had last year, and things kind of made him look like his fault whenever deep down it probably really wasn't. But change is exciting, man. It's something that I think Razorback fans can look forward to and just envision Bobby Petrino's offense with a true, he's a dual threat guy, Taylen Greene, but man, he can freaking sling it. So it's going to be super exciting to see. Let's kind of stay in the transfer portal realm. The Hogs have been getting busy. Sam Pittman's in Georgia, recruiting the hell out of three of those guys over there. What are you seeing and liking by the coaching staff so far in this transfer portal?
Yeah, I mean, I think I talked uh, spoke on this a little in our previous podcast, but it was kind of a blessing in disguise not to be in a bowl game
Yeah,
because our full focus is this transfer portal. And yeah, they're making moves across the country. Still waiting on kind of final like commitments to be announced and stuff like that. But I like the action that's going on. They're really looking at all areas on the team for improvement and really open to changing this roster, which is obviously important given the lackluster year we had. And like you said, change is fun. It's exciting. And so to see the coaching staff out there and, working for that positive change, it's exciting. And so we'll see kind of the moves that get finalized, and then we'll be able to kind of better understand kind of what this year is going to look like. But there's definitely opportunity out there. Obviously, the portal is the wild, wild west, and so there's guys to be had, and so we'll see if they're able to capitalize on that.
yeah, absolutely, man. I think if you can land one or two of those guys from Georgia that are pretty high up in the transfer rankings, things can turn quick. You can get some momentum building. Next thing you know, people are coming to play with other people. You got a talented roster, and you went 4-8 last year. It's an exciting time. Let's shine some light on the Iowa Hawkeyes because we do talk about the Hawkeyes on this podcast, and they are still playing. They went to their Big Ten title game. I think we need to give them the respect they deserve. And I'm going to give you the dance floor, Brad, and I want you to tell us what you expect to see from the Hawkeyes in this bowl game that y'all have coming up.
Yeah. If you don't know, they got slotted into the Citrus Bowl, I believe, on New Year's Day against the Tennessee Volunteers. So cool matchup. Gotta love the Big Ten SEC bowl games. Though they are always fun, especially on New Year's Day. But yeah, I think you're gonna see a spirited team. I mean, it's been kind of that way all year long. They've had a lot of doubters, rightfully so. But they've, for the most part, have kind of overcome that adversity and put together a 10-win season, which looked extremely unlikely throughout. Um, it'll be Brian Ferentz's last game as a coach, and so that's going to be emotional for him and his dad, who is our head coach.
Yep.
So that'll be something to see. Kirk Ferentz has been emotional all year. A lot have, said it's because this is going to be his last year, which he has declined countless times. So it's going to be interesting. I think I haven't seen really any starter declare for the portal, so I think they're all locked in. Injuries have obviously plagued this team this year, so it's not like they're going to be at full strength, but I think mentally the focus will be there. Unlike a Tennessee Volunteers team where, I mean, this wasn't really anything special of a season and coming off an Orange Bowl appearance. Like they don't. I would suspect they don't really care too much, and so it'll be fun. Obviously, bowl games are great at jump starting your next year campaign, and so especially on New Year's Day, it's starting off the 24 year uh, strong, and hopefully they can get a win out of it.
Absolutely. Hey, we are under 8 minutes and 30 seconds left, so let's skip over this preview of the CFP because we're going to be talking about that for multiple weeks going in. We had a crazy ending to, let's get into the NFL, crazy ending to the Kansas City Chiefs, Brad. They are your team. I want your thoughts. Everyone knows what's happened. It's all that's been talked about for the last couple of days. But what is your thoughts on what occurred? And I really want you to kind of talk about your feelings of how the situation was handled with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes more in particular, because he was outraged about this. As a fan of the Kansas City Chiefs, what do you think about this whole ordeal?
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is just kind of I get the call, I just hate the call, and like I saw something to where just the inconsistency on those offensive offsides is just so off the charts. It's mind boggling, and it had to come down to like the biggest moment in the entire game. I get the official threw the flag before that insane play happened, but I mean we were still last 2 minutes of the fourth quarter down however many points. I mean, it was a critical point in the game, no matter what. And he threw the flag. He decided to throw the flag.
Yeah.
I saw something to where, I mean, Tony was, or any receiver, I think it was specifically Tony, had been lining up like that the entire game, and not one flag was thrown. And so, if you're going to say, well, it's offsides, then like, why was it offsides then? Like, it just the inconsistency is kind of tough to swallow. And then, but I get like, sure, it's a flag, so whatever. I mean, you can't do anything about it other than kind of what you do or how you react. And on your second point, it was a little odd to see Mahomes and Andy Reid act that way. They apologized, or I know Mahomes apologized. I'm not sure about Andy Reid. But yeah, it was. I think he just got so fed up with kind of the team's play the last few weeks. He just kind of lost it,
Yeah.
and no, no shame in that. I mean, it's been a struggle bus for the Chiefs, and so maybe this is kind of the thing they need to kind of get their act straight. But yeah, Mahomes, it just looked like a tired, worn out guy who's just kind of done with this, average play on the field, and I can respect that.
Yeah. I mean, it looks like a guy that has his receivers that have 22 drops on the year and is getting absolutely no help and has
Yeah,
almost like won games, put winning throws on the field late in games, and you have receivers dropping the ball, you have receivers lining up offside. So I'm with you. I think that frustration gets to a tipping point, and that's exactly what happened here. I do think
right.
you have to throw the flag no matter what. Like they were talking about this, like officials, on ESPN, and they're like, hey, we usually give him warnings, but this was blatantly too far. Like his back foot was where the Valdez Scantling is on the outside on the line. So it's tough. You hate seeing games in that way. You hate seeing awesome plays like that get affected, but you also have to stick within the rule books, and you can't change the outcomes of plays because it was awesome, which sucks. Um,
Yep.
but yeah, staying with the NFL, man, the Cowboys kicked the Eagles' butts here. The Eagles are on a tough skid. They were viewed as maybe the favorite to win the Super Bowl earlier in the year. They've had two tough weeks in a row, San Fran and Dallas dismantle them. I'm very high on the Cowboys. Um, I'm sure that the Eagles are a good team. Let's not like overreact and say that they're awful. They need to figure some stuff out. This is what happens in the NFL. It's okay to lose a couple of games. That's my thought on this. Brad, we got one more point with 4 minutes left if you're ready to do that. Got anything on this?
Yeah.
Okay,
No,
sweet.
I'll just say
Yeah.
quickly, like Cowboys look good. Eagles have had a gauntlet of a schedule, so no one can get on them too hard for dropping two to two really good teams. So all I'll say is the NFC playoffs look to be shaping up pretty good, and it'll be an interesting
This was the
time.
word on the AFC at the beginning of the year. They were like, man, the AFC playoffs is going to be a gauntlet. And you see all those quarterbacks go down, and you're like, man, there's only a couple big dogs over there in the AFC. Real quick, man, just a couple minutes. The Hogs, man, basketball team, they look good 2 in a row, and then they get beat by 9 by Oklahoma. But we both know that was not the case. 9 was not that game. It was never close after probably the 10-minute mark. My level of concern is pretty high. But man, I've got full faith in Muss. They're gonna do everything they can to figure it out. Hopefully we can get it figured out and go on from there. But I don't think that the season's over by any means.
Yeah, you just hope it like is sooner rather than later. They're able to turn it around. Last year, it just kind of felt like it just lingered and lingered and lingered, and we never really put it together. I guess until the Kansas game.
Yeah.
And so it'd be fun just for our enjoyment and just the sake of just quality basketball for them to pick it up sooner rather than later. But yeah, last weekend was tough. I think OU is a lot better than what people expected. Obviously, coming into the year, but yeah, to your point, that game was not close. And if you're hoping to have any success in March, like you can't be getting blown out like that. So we'll see we'll see what the adjustments are from us and the guys. But starting off not so hot like we've kind of seen in the past.
Yeah. We definitely need Duke to look really good for the rest of the year because right now they're only quad one win that we have. So, this SEC schedule, man, we've got to get it figured out because the thing that sucks with this team is, man, we have looked like one of the best teams in the country that via that Duke game, via the Purdue scrimmage. I think Furman, we looked elite offensively, right? And then you just have these games where you're like, man, where did all of that go? It just flew out the window. So, I mean, it's about putting the pieces together and playing more consistently.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get that group really going. We're down low, Brad. You got anything else on this?
No, we'll see what happens the rest of the way.
Yeah.
We'll be following it.
Heck yeah. Well, bowl season starts soon. We're going to have the college football playoffs coming up. Brad, I'm going to beat you this week in the fantasy playoffs.
Big matchup. Big matchup. First round of the playoffs.
For sure. Well,
you got some injuries though.
Dude,
you're kind of.
My Keenan Allen's the only one out in Herbo. But my team
is two pretty big pieces.
Yeah.
So
we'll recap that next week. Best of
Sounds good,
man. Also, we will kind of dive more into the fantasy as we get closer. But as always, guys, like and subscribe to the channel. We'll be back next week talking more about the Razorbacks, Hawkeyes, and fantasy. So, Brad, it was fun. Absolutely.
Peace.
Hey, man.